This video is from the course Introduction. It's designed for complete beginners and assumes you have no knowledge of the subject matter. If you are interested in more beginner, intermediate, or advanced content, check out our website submeta.io. So we've passed and we've landed in mount. We have learnt previously to attack the armbar from mount when our opponent makes the mistake of extending the arm. And then we learnt that you shouldn't extend your arm from mount when you escape. You should keep your elbows tight. So we're now going to learn a submission from on top of mount, which deals with an opponent who's doing the correct response, which is keeping their elbows tight. We're going to go for the Americana. So I'm essentially going to try to stretch the arm out, put my elbow down, and do a shoulder lock here, right? So this Americana essentially aims to rotate the shoulder like so, taking it into external rotation, and it can potentially cause an injury to the shoulder or the elbow, depending on how much force is applied and how much resistance is being made by the shoulder or the elbow at that given point. So first I need to separate the arms. To do so, I want to get my palms, both palms, behind the forearm here. Okay, I want to get it like this, because then I can start to drive the arm outwards. I can peel the hand away from Michael's body. If you're over the top, I don't have good pressure outwards, it's hard to peel. The other thing is I want to be kind of upright so my arms can be straight. I can lean in with my body weight now, and this is quite effective. If your elbows are bent, I'm going to be fighting against, like with strength here, this is not as good. Okay, so I want to get my arms straight and lean my weight in to pin the arm. One hand close to the elbow, one at the wrist. Immediately when the arm's pinned, I don't want Michael to turn in. If he turns in, he's blocked my ability to get this submission. So as I pin the arm, I'm going to put my elbow down next to Michael's head. Now when he tries to turn in, that's difficult. The elbow's down, but it can't be out here. He can still turn in, right? I have to have it right next to the head. This blocks his ability to turn. From here, I can start to set up a figure 4 grip. The figure 4 grip is where I take my hand through underneath and I lock my hands together like so. The figure 4 grip is a common grip used for shoulder rotation submission. So we use it for the Americana here, and another submission called the Kimura. Now, to get the figure 4 grip, you want to actually hook with your fingers over the top, curled in like this, and not your fingers and thumb. And this applies to both arms. I'm gripping around the wrist, and I'm gripping my own wrist here with figure 4 too. The reason is, there's a way Michael might escape is if he straightens his arm and he escapes from the position, right? The gap between my fingers and my thumb is the weakest point of the grip. If he straightens here, he's going to escape. If I hook over the top, it's harder to do so. When you make a hook grip with your thumb on the same side, you can curl your fingers closer to your wrist and really hook against someone pulling that direction. When I change to a fingers and thumb, I can only curl my wrist so far. There's going to be a bigger gap out this way. So you'll see if I grip with my fingers and thumb, there's this gap, and I can only close that off so much by turning my wrist. Whereas if my thumb is over the same side as my fingers, I can curl a lot further around, and that closes off that gap much more. Once we have the figure 4 grip, we can look to finish the Americana. I want to pin the wrist to the ground and slide the wrist backwards along the ground, putting pressure on the shoulder joint. Once I've got enough pressure here where I've slid the wrist down, I can then start to lift the elbow off the ground to start to get the finish. So some common mistakes with the Americana, there's quite a few here. First off, you need to make sure you trap the elbow. If I attach to the grip here, see how Michael's elbow is below the line of my forearm? If he pulls his elbow by his side, he frees from that grip. Okay, so I need to make sure my forearm and my elbow sit underneath that. Try and pull your elbow down now. You see it gets stuck compared to out here where it drops. This same issue will occur, and this is a really common mistake, is people lift that, they pin the wrist where it is now, and they lift the elbow up. If Michael retracts his elbow down now, it falls through that gap. Okay, so you see here, I lift, he frees that. If instead I slide the wrist back and down, it requires much less lift and it's much harder. Michael tries to pull his elbow down now, it's still stuck and I can apply that pressure. So do not try to lift the elbow first and then move the wrist second. Slide the wrist down along the ground. Similarly, if you let the wrist lift off the ground, sometimes you see people do this. Okay, same issue will occur. Another common mistake, we mentioned this earlier, but the elbow staying connected to the head. I don't want any space here. If Michael starts to move his head away, I want to track that and follow so that I don't give that space where he can start to push my elbow and turn in. Just a note on when we apply this submission, it can come on quite quickly and it's often counterintuitive how fast it can come on, especially when you start to slide the wrist back. Often the shoulder is fully wound up and it just requires a slight lift of the elbow to put pressure. So just be mindful of that and put it on slowly. It's not about doing it as quick as you can. It's about having control throughout so you can finish in a controlled fashion and your opponent has plenty of time to tap. So in summary, for the Americana from Mount, Michael has his elbows tight. I get my palms behind his forearm and his wrist, straighten my arms, drop his wrist to the ground, put my elbow next to his head. I feed my hand underneath and secure the figure 4 grip, thumbs and fingers on the same side. I keep the wrist on the ground as I slide it backwards, and then I gently apply upward pressure on the shoulder. I hope you enjoyed this video from the course Introduction on submeta.io. If you go to submeta.io, you can watch this course for free, uninterrupted, with exercises to help you with recall. Also for free, we have the follow-up course to this, Foundations 1 Escapes, which builds on the content you'll be learning in this course.